Welcome to Session 7 of Awaken, John Wesley and the Methodist Movement. As we continue through our study of who John Wesley was, what he believed, the Methodist movement of the 1700s and since, and what it means today as we are Methodist as well. Our focus in Session 7 is more than a place. Let's talk a little bit about that. We know that John Wesley was Anglican. That was his tradition in Christianity. And yet, Wesley did something revolutionary. He left the church building. See, more than a place is it's about more than the building. One of the things that happened to Wesley after he had his Aldersgate experience, he almost became like a fanatic to some. In some churches, he was asked not to return because he was so on fire, so passionate about what he had experienced and what he believed. He became connected to George Whitefield of his time, who was a field preacher, and he encouraged Wesley to go out and field preach. He left the building. It wasn't about a place. He went out and he preached to coal miners. He preached to the people who didn't meet the standards of the church building, and he went to preach, oftentimes to thousands of people who would come and hear him. Incredible power in leaving the church building to go proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ. One of my favorite quotes when Whitefield suggested that he field preach is he described that he went to be more vile. I just love that. It's a great 1700s quote, but it was that he was removing himself and he was going to be with people. That's part of our call. That is part of our nature as Methodists. We see it within our own community of faith as we go to serve others, whether it's in Guatemala or Puerto Rico, or we go to different places within our community, whether it's in the food pantry. We are leaving our church building. And so that's a question for us as individuals and as a group. Are we all about just us, our group, or just what we're doing, or just our space? Or do we go out and leave our space, go to serve others? It's powerful to think about. In fact, I'll be honest, it's one of the things that drew me to Methodism was when I heard about how Wesley left the building and the power in that. He was known not only for his leaving the building to go preach, but how he served others. We see that in the first rise of Methodism with the Oxford group, how they began to visit prisoners at Castle Prison in England. They also visited the poor and they visited the elderly. They felt like these two components. So it's just not about head knowledge. It's about heart, and it's about living that out. And we see that in what Jesus proclaims in his words and actions, meeting people where they are. John Wesley provided the good news of Jesus Christ to people who wouldn't have heard it otherwise because they didn't come to the church. Oh my gosh, is that not so powerful? He titled the works of mercy, those works, not to get grace, because we already got grace, it's free, but those things that we go out and we do, how we serve others. It's in the Gospels about, when asked, did you visit those in prison? Did you clothe those who didn't have clothes? Jesus said, when you did it to the least of these, you did it to me. And that is true. The Foundry was a building where the United Society met, and it was one of Wesley's groups. And this became a place of works of mercy. Wesley began to provide small loans to people because they couldn't get loans otherwise. On Fridays, they opened the place up so the poor could receive medical care. And they had, he published a book that provided affordable and easy ways to deal with common diseases because medical care is limited by your socioeconomics. It was in that time, and in ways it still is today. And so he saw that need and he stepped into that gap because he feels like that's what we're called to do, to love God and love others. It's about more than a place. It's about more than a building. And that is that the roots of who we are as Methodists. As we leave the building, we see the needs within a community and we seek to fill those. If you spend any time looking into what Methodist churches do, that tradition, that way of being is evident. It's evident in our own church community, and it is evident in other Methodist churches of how we meet the needs of our community, because that's what we're called to do as followers of Jesus Christ. It's a good time for you as a group, and individuals and as a group, to consider how it is that you leave the building and you go to serve others. You go to share the good news of Jesus Christ to those who may not get to hear that much. It's a challenge and it's a gift. May we be awakened to it.